Broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hey everyone, we are very excited that you've joined us for the Clever Portal session today. We're going to get started in just another minute or two to let some additional folks join the call. And one thing to note, if you haven't already, I would go ahead and log in to your Clever account at schools.clever.com. This is going to be a really interactive webinar and you'll want to follow along. All right. Welcome everyone to our webinar on the Clever Portal. We are so excited to have you join us this morning. The Clever Portal is something that we have been working on for years here at Clever and have also made some really interesting recent improvements too. So we're so excited to share those with you today. If you haven't already, I would log into your Clever account. We are going to be taking you through all the steps that you'll need to get the Clever Portal totally configured from end to end so that by the end of this webinar, you'll be able to test it or even to roll it out to users if you want. So we're going to start actually with a quick little poll. So we are going to be doing a couple of these polls throughout the webinar, so be on the lookout for them. They are just to kind of let us know who's on the line and which content we should cover. So I'm going to go ahead and launch this poll now, which is, how long have you been using Clever? Great, we're getting some good participation here. I'm going to give you just another couple of seconds to file your answers. So we wanted to do just some quick little introductions to let you know who's talking to you today. I'm Kirsten. I'm the product manager for the instant login team here at Clever. So we manage the Clever portal. We work on Clever badges, essentially anything that's sort of student and teacher facing at Clever. My team works on. I also might be a familiar face. I was on the district success team before joining the product team here at Clever, and have a passion for helping districts. So it's nice to see so many of you on the line today. And I'm really excited to share the updates and the sort of new components of the portal that my team has been working on over the past 6 months.
And I'm Federico Velarde. I'm a district success manager here, and our team works with districts, specifically with the tech and curriculum teams, to get Clever implemented and to help districts become successful when using Clever. And I was actually formerly a third grade teacher in Oakland, California, so I always wear my teacher hat when working with districts and would try to improve our product internally. So it's really great to be working with all of you and excited for our webinar.
Great, so we've got a quick agenda to let you know what's coming up. We're gonna spend just a tiny bit of time talking about Clever. If you're here, you probably know a little bit about us already, but wanna make sure that we're all on the same page. We're gonna spend the bulk of our time talking about the Clever portal. So we'll give you some high level information about the portal as well as some steps to set it up. We'll then walk you through in the dashboard itself how you go through those setup steps. And then we are going to spend some time as well looking at the student and teacher experience of the Clever portal. We're also going to save a lot of time in this webinar for questions. So as you have questions, enter them in the GoToWebinar interface. We are going to be looking at those throughout the webinar to guide the content, and we'll have a block for questions at the end. We want to make sure that we're getting you the information that you want and you need. We've also got a few handouts attached to the webinar, following up afterwards with a recording as well as an email. So if you have additional questions, definitely feel free to reach out. Great, so at a high level, you probably know about Clever already, but Clever does sort of one main thing. So before Clever, each learning application might have to be connected to your student information system in each district separately, and also might have to be connected to your identity management system separately. So that's a lot of connections to maintain. All of those connections could be slightly different from one another, and created a real pain point for a lot of districts that we heard. So Clever simplifies and streamlines that process. We provide one central location to connect all of your applications, both to your student information system and to your identity management system. So we do that with two kind of separate but related products. The first is rostering, Secure Sync. This is probably something that if you're on Clever or have been on Clever for a while, you're using already. This product essentially helps districts automate the process of creating and updating accounts in applications. We're not going to spend any time on rostering today, but know that if you've got this set up, this supercharges your Clever portal experience and means that you've already got a lot of the legwork done. So this is going to be even easier for you than it would be for a district just getting started with Clever. And today's webinar is all about the Clever portal. So the portal provides two basic things. It provides single sign-on into all of your learning applications for your students and teachers, and one central home for all of your resources. So some districts that we talk to have same sign-on set up for all their learning applications, but students still need to track down those particular URLs to get into applications. This centralizes that process. And also, we sometimes hear that different applications have different sets of credentials. Some may utilize login with Google, others may need a username and password. Those username and password conventions may be different. So the Clever portal smooths all of that out so that students access all of their resources in one place with sort of one central set of credentials. And this is really intended to function as students and teachers' one-stop shop for all of their digital resources. We're going to guide you through the process of setting up the Clever portal, so definitely follow along and be ready to test. The best part is that if you have a Clever account already, or if you're about to get one, the Clever portal is already enabled and set up. It's just a question of kind of configuring it to be exactly how you want it to be. So we've got another poll for you here. So are you using the Clever portal today? Getting some good participation on this poll as well. I'm going to give just another couple seconds for folks to answer. Great. This is a pretty good distribution. So it looks like most folks are using the Clever portal a little bit, and then about half of the remaining folks are using it a lot, and half of the remaining folks are using it, are not yet using it, but are interested in learning more. So that's a really great place to start. So I am now actually going to jump into just a really quick demo of what the Clever portal experience looks like for a student. So let me get to that. So I'm actually going to use a public Clever demo account. So it's clever.com/in/demo. If you want to follow along, you are more than welcome to access this right along with me. And this is also a demo that you can take with you from this webinar in case you want to show other folks in your district what the experience looks like. So you can see in the top bar here, I have got the credentials. So I'm going to put in K Smithy and the password. If I was a district that was configured with Google or Active Directory, I would be using those credentials to log in instead. So now I'm logged in as a student to my Clever portal. You can see that I've got a whole bunch of resources available to me right at my fingertips. So I've got some learning applications up here as well as some learning resources. And if I click into these applications, I'm taken directly into my account. So I'm now in my account in iCivics. Earlier today, I was playing around in Khan Academy, one of our more popular free applications on Clever. So you can see I've clicked in and I'm brought right back into my account. I can actually resume progress exactly where I left off. So I am now going to hand this over to Federico to start talking about how you can get this Clever portal set up and configured for students in your district.
Thanks a lot. So as Kirsten mentioned, the Clever portal comes with your Clever account, and it's really just a matter of implementing it in the way that's going to meet you and your district's needs. And when I really like to think about implementing it, there are really four main components to consider when getting set up with the Clever portal. The first is really deciding where students will go, and that impacts what portal URL you want to set. The second is really deciding which credentials they'll use to log in. And finally, really the third is managing the resources students and teachers will need to access on a day-to-day basis. After you have those three steps finished, you'll definitely want to figure out how you're going to roll out your portal and notify your students and teachers. And looking at the first two components, you'll want to really figure out where students will go and then configure those login credentials. One thing that all districts have available to them is to customize their Clever portal URL. You want to make your URL easy to remember and something that matches your district's needs. So if you see here, I use my demo account and change my credentials to Federico SD. You can go ahead and customize it to any portal URLs that are not taken already. And finally, what we do is support many different identity providers. So we'll actually jump into the product to show you how these two steps can be done on your own demo account. So if you do log in to your Clever dashboard, and you can actually follow along with us in your own Clever dashboard. As we log in though, you'll want to log in as a district admin and first access your URL. So give us a sec here. So the first step here is to configure your portal. So you would actually go to the portal button on the left-hand side of your screen, and you'll be able to customize your portal here. As you see, this is our public demo, and we've customized it to clever.com/in/demo, and you'll update that URL, and it'll basically activate immediately. You can change it to whatever you'd like, but we're going to leave ours as is. The second step is configuring your login method. So to do that, you'd go to settings, to login settings, and then you'd be able to choose among a handful of identity providers. And here at Clever, we work with districts that use Google, Office 365, Active Directory, and we also heard from many districts that sometimes your teachers will use Active Directory, but your students will use Google. At Clever, we'll offer flexibility for hybrid methods so that your teachers and students don't have to go through the tough change management that comes with memorizing a new login. And for those of you who don't have a commonly used login method, we can even create username and passwords using information pulled from your student information system. So as you can see here, this is called Clever Passwords, and you can decide what the teacher credential will be, what the student credentials will be, and what the school administrator credentials will end up being. After you configure your login credentials, you'll just be able to save them and make sure that you communicate with your students and teachers how they log in.
Yeah, and one thing that I want to note is that I know a lot of the folks on the line and the districts that we talk to on a day-to-day basis are using Google. Google is actually the easiest identity provider to set up. You literally click this button, and if your student emails, if their student Google emails are coming into Clever already, you literally click save and you're ready to go with Google logins.
Great. So now that we've taken care of setting up the portal, you want to then consider managing the resources users are going to access on a day-to-day basis. And I really think this is the most important and crucial component of setting up your portal. One thing to note is that the Clever portal can support all of your applications. And when it pertains to these different applications and resources, we like to categorize them into 3 different buckets. The first are instant login apps, which require no additional setup required for single sign-on. So any apps that you're rostering with us that have instant login enabled, those will be added to the portal immediately based on the data sharing rules that you have set up within your dashboard. Now, as many of you have found, there are probably some applications that don't offer rostering within Clever. We've actually enabled those applications to become safe passwords apps. And since they're not formal Clever partners, we can still add them onto Clever to store credentials for those apps and replicate the single sign-on experience. So IXL is one of our popular safe passwords apps. There are many more, and this is all in support of really trying to get all of your resources onto Clever. And finally, you have the ability to add custom links here onto your Clever portal. And these custom links are really for those resources that don't require a login, but also for some of those resources that integrate with your IDP. So namely some of those Google apps. So if you've set up Google as a login method in Clever, the best way to add links to Google Classroom, Google Docs, or even Google Drive would be to add it as an external link. And you can also scope this to users similar to how you would share data. Only certain users would be able to see the apps that they are scoped to. Finally, once you have all the resources in the portal, it now comes down to organizing it. And adding custom categories really adds structure for the user experience. Some of these categories that we've seen work really well are categorized by app type or even content area. So you can actually, and what the categories actually do is it provides hints to teachers and students to the experience that they can expect when accessing each app. So I've seen districts add instant login applications, safe passwords applications as a category, and even add teacher and student resources. One thing to know about the categories is that a student will only see a category that they are scoped to. So if you add teacher resources as a category, that won't appear for your users who aren't scoped to those resources. Now that we've talked about basic portal setup, from here on out, this is where you would step in and really think about rolling this out. 4 best tips that we consider is number 1, sharing your portal URL as a homepage or a bookmark. You want to make your portal easy to access and either set it up as a launch page, a homepage, or even a bookmark within the students' browsers. And the second thing to do is you want to consider how you'll educate users on their login credentials. We've seen this work really successfully when districts will print out handouts and pass them out to their individual school sites, directing students and teachers what credentials they'll use to log into Clever. And remember, once you've set up that one single set of credentials, they'll be able to access all of their apps using that one credential. Third, you'll want to get school administrators involved to successfully implement the portal. Since they are the folks who are on the site and on the ground, they are very key stakeholders. And we've seen the success of a portal launch really be dependent on whether the school administrators are involved and are able to help and assist you roll this out. Finally, if you have any questions, if you want any resources, your Clever District Success Reps will be here to help you. I'm one and we have many others. Just contact one of us and we'd be more than happy to send you resources such as login instructions, teacher handouts, even school admin handouts, or even parent resources to access the portal. We have a ton of things that we build on a day-to-day basis. And if we don't have something you're looking for, just request it and we'd be more than happy to help you on that end. Now I'm going to pass it on to Kirsten, who's going to walk us through a little bit of a demo here.
Yeah, thanks so much. We also haven't been getting that many questions. So we're going to have a section on questions right after this last segment. So definitely make sure that you're putting those questions into the GoToWebinar interface so that we're covering the content that you want to see. So I am actually going to demonstrate a little bit about teachers in Clever. So at the beginning of last school year, there wasn't a lot for teachers to kind of do within Clever. Their experience looked very similar to what student experiences look like. And for teachers, having a bookmark bar that includes single sign-on It's helpful, but probably is not the most useful tool. So what we've done over the past 6 months is add some resources into Clever to really engage teachers and give them sort of the resources that they're looking for. So I'm going to show you the Clever teacher experience. This is also something that you can follow along on, but I am going to use a different demo district for myself because I'm going to show you a little bit of functionality that actually hasn't even been released yet, but will be next week. So I've got my short portal URL is clever.com/in/cleverusd. I've now logged in as a teacher, so I'm logged in here as Margot, and you can see that this primary portal experience looks pretty similar to the student experience, but I've also got these resources on this sidebar. So this top resource is a troubleshooting wizard for teachers. So if a student is having difficulty logging into Clever, they are going to be able to access some solutions. So if the student is having difficulty logging into Clever, they can click this button and instantly be provided with a backup code. They can use that backup code for a temporary amount of time. They can only use it once, but that backup code will get a student right into their Clever account so that they can start learning and follow along with the day's lesson rather than having to go to a worksheet or do something that the rest of the class is not engaged with. If for whatever reason the problem is a little bit deeper, then we have a couple of options available here. We actually are doing some checks behind the scenes to diagnose what the issue might be when teachers go through this pretty simple flow. So here it looks like the student is missing Khan Academy. It looks like from our end, we can tell that the student is shared with Khan Academy. They should be seeing the application. So if a teacher is going to submit a ticket on this, our support team is going to take a look and see what's going on. So in addition to helping students log in and reporting more complex issues from inside the portal, teachers also have some resources available to them. So we've gotten a lot of questions through the years from teachers asking sort of what is Clever, how can I use Clever the most effectively, and what are sort of the functionalities that I might be missing out on. So we've got some resources for teachers here. We also are giving them an opportunity to give us direct product feedback and hear about product updates, as well as get a few printable classroom resources. So that's the functionality that's released to teachers today. The brand new functionality that is coming out next week is this classes tab. So previously, teachers had a students tab where they could see a list of their students in different classes and could perform a few operations, but it was pretty lightweight. So now I'm going to show you the classes tab. So as a teacher, I have 4 different sections, so I can see them here. I can also perform some operations on them. So if I know that my advanced arithmetic class is happening right now, and I want to launch an app for all of the students in that class, I can do that right here. So maybe we're using Khan Academy today. So I've just launched Khan Academy on the computers of all of the students in my advanced arithmetic class. Also, if class is over and I know that students shouldn't be in Clever anymore, I can log that class out with one single click. So that's great if you're operating at a whole class level, but what about for individual students? So I can click on any of these cards, and I then continue to have the option to launch applications, but what's really powerful is I can actually see which of the students in this particular class are logged in. I can sort this by first name and last name. I can still log the entire class out. And then if Monique is having difficulty logging into Clever, I have some options to be able to help her. So if Monique has a Clever badge, which we'll talk about in just a minute, I can print out her Clever badge or avoid that if she's lost it. I can reset her password if she's using Clever as her identity. And I can also generate a one-time login code from here as well. So as I mentioned, this is brand new functionality. Be on the lookout for this in the next week or so. And if you're really, really eager to roll this out to your teachers, let us know in the GoToWebinar interface, and we can probably get you set up with that later today. So one other piece of functionality I wanted to make sure that we cover in this kind of extra credit section is Clever Badges. So Clever Badges are one of the most powerful tools that we've been able to implement in the time that I've been at Clever. So we heard from tons and tons of districts that it's really difficult for young students to access software. It's pretty tough to remember a username and password and to type in a username and password when you don't know your letters yet. So we wanted to address that need and came up with Clever Badges as our solution. Clever Badges are essentially a QR code that we generate for students in the grade levels that you designate. Students take that badge, you print it out, they hold it up to the camera of their device. There's a cute little ping. It's pretty fun if you haven't seen it in action already. And then those students are logged into Clever and logged into all of their learning applications just by holding up that badge. There's some other powerful integrations that we have with Clever Badges. So we also have an integration available with Chromebooks and Clever Badges that's been really, really popular. The way that that works is you do a little bit of configuration in the Google Admin Console. We've got a step-by-step walkthrough available for you in the portal. Once that's done, students that are on Chromebooks that have this, this setting applied, basically open the lid of the Chromebook, they hold up their badge, and they're logged into the device, into their Google account, into Clever, and into all of the applications that they can access via Clever. So it's a really powerful tool to get students through the cumbersome process of logging in so that they don't have to type in usernames and passwords and can get right into their learning applications. Great, so one other thing that I did want to mention, because it looks like it's come up a little bit, is that we do have the ability for folks at the school site level to customize the Clever portal. So that's a toggle that's available to you, and you'll want to make sure that those folks are school admins in Clever. If you have questions about that, let us know, and we can help you with that kind of upload process of getting those folks into Clever. But essentially, this is a tool so that folks at the school site level who might have the most granular knowledge about what's being used and what's needed in terms of the structure of the portal can do that customization themselves. So taking a little bit of the burden off of the district office and allowing schools to have some more autonomy over what the portal looks like.
Yeah, so in summary, the Clever portal now supports all of your applications, and you can have all your teachers and students access all of them, whether they're an instant login app, a safe passwords app, or even a link. And to roll this out, you will want to add applications and share the applications to the appropriate users using the data sharing permissions or even selecting users as a safe passwords functionality. And finally, the Clever portal is also compatible with Clever Badges for all devices that are equipped with a camera. So we're really excited to roll that out and have recently had an integration with Windows. Again, if you want to learn a little more about that, feel free to reach out to your district success rep and they'll give you the right resources you'll need to configure your devices with Clever Badges. We've finished up with the presentation portion of this, and right now we'd like to field questions that we can help answer for the entire group. So if you have a question that's on your mind, something that we covered that you'd like us to go into more detail or even demo with you all, just let us know and we will begin fielding those questions now.
Great, we've got some really good questions coming in. So one of the questions is from Christina and is about saved passwords applications. So we expected to get some questions on saved passwords applications. They're a pretty powerful tool at Clever, but they also are a little bit more complicated than setting up a traditional instant login app that's done that legwork of integrating with Clever for you. So Safe Passwords applications essentially came to be because we wanted the Clever portal to be a home for all of your learning applications, including apps that haven't yet partnered with Clever. So we essentially will vault student credentials and teacher credentials to log those users in when they click on the app from inside their Clever portal. So I can show you a little bit about what that looks like. There are two different ways to set up Save Passwords apps. So in the same way that you add an app that you might use for rostering or instant login, you'll add that app through the Add App flow. You can also request a Save Passwords app if we don't have one available immediately, and my team will build that for you. From there, you need to scope the application just like you would a rostering or an instant login app, basically just choosing which users should have access to that application. We then use that information to power the Clever portal and to determine which students should see that application, which we do for rostering apps as well. There's one additional setup step, which is that we essentially need those credentials in order to be able to log students in. So there are two different ways that you can get those credentials to us. One is you can upload those centrally through the Clever dashboard. So you would need a CSV that essentially specifies which student, which teacher, their username, their password, and if any additional information is required to get a student logged in, sometimes they need a class code or something like that, you'd want to import that information as well. If you upload those credentials centrally and they work, then students, when they walk up to the Clever portal and click on that app, will go directly into their account. They won't see any prompts. It'll look just like a regular Save Passwords app for them. If that's not the case, if you don't have a list of those credentials handy centrally, then you can do essentially what's been demoed on the screen, which is the first time that users log into that application from their Clever portal, we'll ask them for their username and password. They'll log in much in the same way that they would if they went to Quizlet directly. And then Clever will vault those credentials so that the next time that they come back and click on Quizlet, they'll go straight into their account and won't see this prompt. You are able to do sort of a combination of those two methods. We'll always try the credentials entered by a user first before we try the ones that were uploaded centrally. But if either of those credentials are accurate and get the student logged in, then they'll be logged in immediately. One other thing to note on Save Passwords is that this operates today through a Chrome extension. So you'll need to make sure that student devices have that Chrome extension installed and that they're accessing Clever on the Chrome browser. Really exciting news though. So my team has just finished up work and we're currently in the review process for extensions on both Firefox and Microsoft Edge. So those should be out at about sort of whenever we get through the process on their end, which should be hopefully by the end of the year or early next year. So students will be able to access Save Passwords apps on Firefox and on Microsoft Edge, which is replacing Internet Explorer as well. Yeah, let's find a good one.
And keep sending those questions our way. We're just browsing a few. Let's see.
We got one quick question that I want to make sure that we answer on resetting passwords, on that sort of teacher functionality of resetting passwords. So if you're using an external identity provider, if you're using Google, if you're using Active Directory, users don't have the ability to reset passwords from inside Clever. It's only if you're using Clever as your identity provider, if you're using that Clever passwords option, that teachers would have the ability to reset passwords. So don't worry about that if you're getting set up with Active Directory or with Google. Another question that's come up from a couple of people is those classes that you saw inside the teacher view. How do those get formed? How do we know which classes are which? How do they get their names? So those are going to be the sections that are coming in from your SIS. So any section that a teacher is associated with, they should be able to see in that view. We've also are gathering some feedback around whether teachers want to be able to customize the names of those classes. The section names that come in from the SAS can be a little bit unwieldy. So the ones that we have are pretty clean, but we are definitely thinking about that functionality. So if that's something that's important to you, definitely let us know. We got a question from Alan about the Clever badge and Chromebook integration, about whether it's already available. It is already available. We have a few hundred districts using it today. If you want to get it set up, we can actually show you where that lives inside your Clever dashboard. So give me just a moment to get logged in again. The hardest part of demos is making sure that you're logged in the right place. Great, so if you're interested in getting that badges into Chromebooks configuration set up, or actually if you're interested in getting badges set up more generally, you're gonna go to settings in the left-hand nav bar and then click on badge settings. So here there's a Chromebook tab that will show you exactly step-by-step what you need to do within your Google Admin Console. One of the questions that we get about badges into Chromebooks really frequently is, do I have to do this for all of the Chromebooks in my district? The answer is no. You can limit this by organizational unit so that only some of the Chromebooks have this configuration, and others you can still access with those Google credentials. In any case, even if you do have the Chromebook set up to accept the badge logins, you're always able to bypass that. Students are always able to bypass that and log in with their Google username and password. A couple of other things that might be helpful here. This is the tab that you go to configure badges. So you can choose which grade level should have access. We've had requests for students in higher grades using badges, so you do have the ability to show more grades. We recommend that if students are able to log in with a password that they do that, but we do know that there are special ed students and other English language learner students in higher grades that may benefit from badges. And actually have some badges improvements on the roadmap for the next couple of months. You also get to choose which schools have access to badges. So this is sort of the scoping piece. Once you've done that, you'll move over to the distribution tab where you can either download those badges in bulk. Teachers also have the option of downloading badges for an entire class or for particular students. And you can download those in either a PDF or a PNG format.
And a quick question, I'd like to answer a question from Tony, who was asking about what the cost is for Clever. Everything that you've just seen, including both rostering, single sign-on, and the Clever portal, all come at no cost to districts. So for those of you who have your accounts set up but haven't been using the portal, you can actually go ahead and set up your portal and you won't run into any additional costs. And for those of you who have not set up a Clever account, feel free to reach out to us at districts@clever.com. To get your account set up. But again, this comes at no cost to any school districts.
We had a great question come in from Joshua. So this one I couldn't have planted better myself, which is there a way to use badges to log into Windows devices? So this is something that we have been toying around with a little bit and have a pilot program in place for. So if that's something that you're interested in, definitely indicate that and we can reach out and see if you're a good fit for that pilot program. We've also had a couple of questions about whether this webinar is going to be recorded. We have been recording it and we'll email it out to you by the end of the day today.
We've also had a few questions asking whether parents would be able to log into Clever. We've also had a few questions asking us whether parents could actually log into Clever or if they have their own parent portals. Currently, Clever only supports logins for students, for teachers, for school admins, and for district admins. So there isn't a parent portal or parent functionality to log in. However, we do have some resources that parents can use to help their students log into their applications at home. So I'm sure many of you have teachers in the district who assign homework based off some of the learning programs you have. We have some collateral that we'd be willing to share so that you can help parents understand how to get their students logged into their apps at home using Clever.
We've had a couple of questions about saved passwords. One is, when can you start using those other browsers? So as I mentioned, we've finished engineering work on those browser extensions and are just undergoing the review process from the Firefox and Edge stores. So if you want to know when those extensions are live and ready to be used, let us know and we can add you to our email list. We'll also announce that in the district newsletter as soon as those are ready. I wish I could give you an exact timeline, but we don't know ourselves exactly when that process will be complete. We also got a question about adding saved passwords applications. So I'm going to go ahead and demonstrate the process for that. So if you're logged in to your Clever district dashboard, on the left-hand side, you'll want to click on Applications and then click Add Applications. As we're nearing the semester rollover, this is actually a really great time to add any kind of application, not just saved passwords applications. So if you want to get that automated rostering set up, or if you want instant login applications, this is a great time to find those. So as you search through the app gallery, you can find applications that you might want to use. And then you can see below how they're supported via Clever. So Actively Learn is supported for both single sign-on, so Clever Instant Login, and for rostering. So I'm going to go ahead and add Aries as a saved passwords application. I can tell that it's saved passwords because of what's indicated underneath. So I'm going to go ahead and click Request App. And it looks like this is actually a situation that some of you might find yourselves in. So I don't have saved passwords enabled on my account yet. And so I'm not able to get this application up and running. So I'm going to go ahead and click on Enable Saved Passwords to support Universal SSL. Literally the only person that this impacts is me. This just allows me to go ahead and add those applications, which I wasn't able to do before. So as a district admin, this is a really safe thing to do. You are only allowing yourself more options. So now that I've got Universal Single Sign-On turned on, I'm going to navigate back to that Add Application Gallery. I'm going to go ahead and search for Aries, and then I'm going to request this app. We ask you a little bit about whether you'd like the app to support rostering. That's pretty useful information for our teams as they go out and find potential partners. But I'm just going to click no here for the purposes of the demo. And now I've got Aries added to my account, but I'm not done quite yet. So I'm going to click this button to upload credentials. So in any case, Clever needs to know which users should have access to the application. So this user access tab is going to look a lot like the sharing rules that you set up for other types of applications. I am going to use Aries as my SIS, so I am going to share it with everyone in the district. I think everyone needs access. If you want to give users access on a more granular basis, you can use some of those other options. So you can share by school, and you can also share by rules, which is a very powerful feature that allows you to select a very narrow group of folks. Great, so I've now got Aries added to my account. I've decided who should see it, which I think is everyone in the district. Now I'm basically going to make a choice about how I want to manage user credentials. So I'm going to go to the Manage Credentials tab. If I know which credentials students and teachers use to access Aries, I can put those into a CSV and I can upload them here. You can also automate this upload process via a script if that's something that you want to do or want to add to your files that you're sending to Clever already. I don't have to do this though, so I can skip this manual credentials upload, and when students click on Aries for the first time from inside Clever, they will be directed to enter their username and password. We'll keep those on file. In case it's helpful to know, anytime we try those credentials and they're not accurate, they don't work to log a user in, we'll prompt them to re-enter their username and password. So it looks like for this application and for some of our applications, there's not one central place where all users from all districts log in. There's a separate place for each district that users would log in. So it's really important that I input that information so Clever knows where to direct these users in order to get them logged in. So mine might be clever.aries.com. And now I've completed the configuration. Aries is all set up and ready for my users to use. Because I have not actually configured this with any real credentials, I'm going to go ahead and delete the application. We also like to ask you when you're deleting applications, sort of why you've done that so that we can make changes to our product and basically keep it as user-friendly as possible. We had one quick question about where to access that public demo. So again, it's clever.com/in, I-N, like the opposite of out, /demo. And from there, when you start typing into those username and password boxes, the credentials should appear for you. One other quick thing I wanted to note is we've gotten a couple of questions about that URL that you will direct students and teachers to, that portal URL. So I'm going to navigate back to to the portal settings page. So here you may have something, you likely do have something already pre-populated that maybe says your district name with dashes and then a long string of letters and numbers after that. If that's the case, feel free to delete that and add in something here at the end of this URL that'll be easier for folks to remember. We actually have a kind of nice feature where if you, for whatever reason, have pasted that URL, that long, ugly URL somewhere, and made it into a bookmark, we will continue to direct users from that URL to the new URL that you set. So don't worry about messing anything up by changing this URL to be something simpler. Just make sure that it's something that's reasonable for your students to remember. We got a question about shared devices. So a lot of districts have devices that are used by multiple students during the course of a day. Clever does work on shared devices. So you just need to make sure that folks are logging out of Clever and logging out of their learning applications when they're done before passing that device on to the next student. The teacher tools that we demoed for you just a few minutes ago actually can help with this a lot. So teachers now have the option to log their entire class out of Clever, Also, a superpower of that Chrome extension, if you've got that installed, is that it'll also log students out of the applications that they've accessed via Clever, as long as those tabs are still open when teachers click log class out or log this individual student out. So that's some exciting functionality for shared devices. If you see any snags with shared devices, please let us know. That's something that we are very interested in supporting and want to make sure that that's a great experience.
Got a really good question from Chris, and he asked about the analytics tools that are available in Clever. And this is another really great reason why using the Clever portal, why using the Clever portal is really advantageous for you at the school district level. Let's see here. So if you wanted to access the analytics page, if you were on your dashboard, you would just click View Metrics, and this would basically track logins for your users at the district. And again, this is our demo app. But if your students were logging into Clever, we'd be able to track their logins and give that information back to you in this analytics page. You could filter by time. You could even look at specific apps and see how students are logging in. And you can even narrow down at some schools. And this is a really great tool to see how many of your students are actually logging into the apps that you've allocated licenses for them. So if you scroll down, you can see logins by app, like I already mentioned. But once this all fills out, you can see by the login method that they use, so one of your identity providers, you can see which devices they're using to log in to their applications and even which browsers. So feel free to go into your Clever dashboard now, check out the analytics page to see the totally revamped version of our analytics initiative here. Anything else to add, Kristen?
Nope, just that the hope is that your analytics page looks a little bit more populated than ours in our demo district. Great. Well, looks like we've gotten through a lot of the questions that would be relevant for the whole group. We have been following up on the sidebar and also will continue to follow up after the webinar. If you have additional questions, don't hesitate to reach out. Also, feel free to check out our support center. We have a lot of really great content there that's curated and updated really regularly by Clever support team. If you've ever worked with the support team, you know that they're awesome. And if you have a more sticky issue, you're more than welcome to get in touch with them through the Help Center by submitting a form there. I promise that form goes right into the hands of our support folks who answer those very promptly. So if you are having an issue, always feel free to reach out there. Also, we have a Clever community that's part of our Help Center. So if you are interested in sharing best practices yourself or looking at best practices that other districts have mentioned, if you're interested in giving product feedback, that's a really great place to do that. I know that I look at that format, at that community and all of the posts in it basically every single day. So that's a really great way to get in touch with us. We, again, are going to send out a recording to this webinar, so feel free to share that. And also feel free to get in touch with us and let us know what you thought. Thank you so much for being with us today, and stay tuned for future Clever webinars.